I want to be clear with you all that a new day has come. To San Francisco, to Oakland, to Baltimore, to Ferguson, to Atlanta, there is a movement sweeping this country, and we are not going to stop until you stop killing us. Shut it down! Shut it down!
Torrance police officers that murdered 23-year-old Christopher Deandre Mitchell in 2018 are going to walk away from any and all criminal liability. Joining us to discuss is Sheila Bates, policy coordinator at Black Lives Matter Grassroots. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning, Kat. Thank you for having us. It is a pleasure to see you and be here with you.
Always, always, and always good to see you. All right, I always start with the humanity of the folks because they're much more than a tragedy. Who is Christopher DeAndre Mitchell? We say is because we know our ancestors are here with us. What do we know about the life he was living?
That's right. Christopher DeAndre Mitchell was the only child of Sister Sherilyn Haynes and was a beloved 23-year-old with aunties and uncles and cousins and friends who loved him dearly. We were told that he was a light, that he was hilarious, that he would give the shirt off his back to people. He was his mama's best friend. And he called her frequently and absolutely kept in touch with her and was really deeply loved by his uncles and by his aunts, by his cousins, one of whom was two of them who were very young when this happened. One of them was 5 and the other one was 8. And now the 8-year-old is going to be graduating soon.
What do we know about what happened to him on December 9th, 2018?
So he was sitting in a car at a Ralph's parking lot, and within 12 seconds of Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon approaching the vehicle, they shot and killed him. One cop fired first, and then the other immediately fired. There was no words. And he was complying with conflicting orders. So when the cops approached the vehicle, they gave conflicting orders telling him to put his hands up, to put his hands on the steering wheel, to get out of the car, various things. And he was complying with all of those orders. And then one of them, who was on the driver's side, shot, and the other one on the passenger side shot immediately thereafter. No one said anything about anything. They just started firing and didn't even give him a chance. And then after they killed him, Brian Kawamoto then showed up with a beanbag gun and shot him after he was already dead.
Tell us more about these cops, Sheila, Matthew Concannon, and Anthony Chavez. What do we know about them?
So Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon, as well as Brian Kawamoto, were all involved in the messaging scandal that broke and made national, actually worldwide news. They were joking about peeing on the graves of Black children, about breaking the taillights of Black men and Black people so they'd have an excuse to pull them over and beat them. They were joking about having gun cleaning parties after they killed him. Matthew Concannon also sent a message saying that he had lied to the DA and that it was a win because they stuck to the story. And then all of this sort of the messaging scandal blew up because 2 other cops in Torrance were involved in impounding a vehicle and then vandalizing it with a swastika. And once that got to the DA's office, and that our DA at that point was George Gascon, he looked into it and thought that there was something else going on. And that's when all these messages came out. They were also there was a frequent code that they used in Torrance for decades, called NIT, Inward in Torrance. And they were still using that. They were calling Black people the N-word. They were joking about lynching Black people. They had mentioned Christopher's name in these text messages, as well as his family and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles.
Hmm. So, I mean, not. I know that even for some of my listeners, because even for me, that's been doing this work for almost 3 decades now. Dang, I getting old. Hearing that is like jarring to the ears. But what we know, right into the spirit, but what we know, what you and I know, what Black Lives Matter Grassroots knows, is that this is not the exception to the rule. This is
That's right.
how police officers behave. So if you could talk some more about that, that this is not, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened. It's more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we have it on text message. Idiot.
Absolutely. And, they were brazen enough to send this in regular text messages. This isn't something they were sending on Signal, on Snapchat, or any deleting app that was self-deleting. They were sending this in regular text messages. And they even joked in one of the text messages about how they can get away with things. And this is absolutely indicative of policing in general, right? This is not just about Torrance Police Department, because we've heard about scandals like this happening in every police department around the country. And there's also all the stories that we don't hear, right? That this is who police are, because they hail from slave catchers. And so, of course, they're going to use the N word. Of course, they're going to joke about lynching, because this is this is their lineage, right? That their lineage came from the same thing. We can't forget that cops were frequently at lynchings and were involved in them, or looked the other way when they were happening, and that they would take off their uniform and they'd put on a sheet, right? And they were involved in those things. And so, we've seen this in Vallejo, right, where they were bending the tips of their badges. We know that in LAPD, right, that they sent a message around with a picture of George Floyd, where they said on Valentine's Day, that said, "You take my breath away." Right? That this is who the police department have always been. And this is the same police department, Los Angeles Police Department, who was advertising and recruiting for new cops in Breitbart, a right-wing rag. So, this is absolutely who they've always been. And I think that's important. Thank you for asking that question, because all too often people really do think that this is a one-off, but this is who policing are in general. And this is an indictment on the whole system.
And thank you for hollering at my homies in Vallejo PD. I wanted to give them a little love this morning too, because that's actually exactly the police department I was thinking about as you started to talk about the text scandal. All right, Sheila, and everybody knows homies was facetious for somebody
Yes.
talking about Cat being friends with cops. A grand jury indicted these cops, right? Matthew Concanon and
Yes.
Anthony Chavez. I know a lot of times grand jury proceedings can be sealed. Did you ever learn what motivated the grand jury to be like, yeah, nah, this deserves a charge, or did that not come to light?
That did not come to light. And I do, if you don't mind, want to give a little bit of additional context.
Yeah.
So Christopher was murdered on December 9th of 2018. That was when Jackie Lacey was still the DA.
Right.
I am very happy to be able to say was, because we kicked her out of office.
Yeah, you did.
And Sister Sherilyn Haynes, the mother of Christopher DeAndre Mitchell, helped to kick her out of office. She
Mm.
was there and bird dogged her and chased her around the city, around the county, to make sure that she was not in office, because she declined to press charges against Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concanon initially. And so she was absolutely critical and crucial to her being ousted. And then in 2020, we had George Gascon come in. And prior to him even winning, Christopher DeAndre Mitchell's case was one of the cases that he identified that he wanted to reopen because it was so egregious. He was 23 years old. He was sitting in a car and was killed within 15 seconds of them approaching the vehicle while he was complying with their conflicting orders. Like it's so awful. And you can't, like, you can hear in the video that he's literally saying, "I'm sorry." He's listening to everything that they're saying, and they killed him anyway, right? And we know that Black people do not need to be exceptional in order to survive and in order to live, but he was literally doing everything that he was told to do when they killed him. And so George Gascon pressed charges against, said that this was a case he wanted to reopen. He hired a special prosecutor by the name of Lawrence Middleton. Lawrence Middleton brought the charges and took it to the grand jury, where the grand jury indicted him. And then it went forward to a full trial, or was supposed to. We never made it to trial, right? This was all pre-trial hearings that the family went through for 3 years. They dragged this out, and I am convinced that they dragged this out in an effort to wait for a new DA. and a new DA did come in, and his name is Nathan Hochman. And because George Gascon was unseated due to the fact that the Los Angeles Police Protective League and numerous police associations within LA County were bankrolling Nathan Hochman's campaign in the same way that they bankrolled his predecessor, Jackie Lacey, who allowed for over 600 people to be killed by police in LA County without charging any of them. And so I think that's really important context. And then the day after Nathan Hochman was elected, the defense attorneys came in to court with Sister Sherilyn, the mother of Christopher Deandre Mitchell, sitting right behind the attorney, walked up to the attorney. They were laughing, they were joyous, walked up to Lawrence Middleton and said, "We know that this isn't going anywhere. Why are we still here? George Gascon is out." In front of his mother. And then when Nathan Hochman did get into office, he fired Lawrence Middleton, the special prosecutor, put a new special prosecutor in who didn't know anything about the case. His name was Mike Giannacco. And Mike Giannacco wrote this whole memo about how essentially there wasn't enough evidence and that all of these things were flawed, and really threw Lawrence Middleton under the bus for this, when in reality they just didn't want to prosecute this case because they had taken so much money from the police associations. And we know with that money comes the fact that they have to do their bidding. And that's exactly what Nathan Hochman did.
Couple things for my listeners in Alameda County. This is like play for play what happened with the Stephen Taylor case. Stephen Taylor was a brother in mental health crisis that was murdered within seconds of a cop walking into a Walmart. He was the first and only cop that then DA O'Malley had ever prosecuted because of work that we did together, Sheila, and the law where you can't just say, I feared for my
Mhm.
life. Drug it out for years. Pamela Price, who was the DA, so I guess she would be akin to Gascon, and they'll me, and my sister for another mister used to tussle about George because he didn't do that up here, but we was glad he was going to do it. Down there, Pamela Price comes in, she's pushing the case forward. They try to make her recuse herself. The police bankroll a new person. That new person is Ursula Dixon Jones, who then sends the prosecutor, her junior DA or whatever the heck they're called, to go into the courtroom and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, there's just not enough evidence to prosecute this case." And for us, sitting in the Alameda County courtroom, we were like, "Wait a minute." And I want to get you this. There's a reason I took you on that journey. Wait a minute. The DA is supposed to work for the people.
That's right.
Aren't they
That's
called
right.
the people's attorney? Like that's your
Hmm.
job. And we pointed that out to the DAs up here, and they said, "You're not the people." Say more about how the DA's office trashed this case.
Yes, I mean, it was very much intentional because of the money that they took from the Los Angeles Police Protective League, who bully and bribe politicians, not just in the city, but also across the state, right? We know that the bills that we have worked on, that the Los Angeles Police Protective League, along with every other police association, has been counter to every bill that we have worked on, right? From the use of force bill to the California Rights to Know Act to the decertification to the Crises Act. They were in opposition of all of these bills, right? Strangely enough, they were also one of the first, or it wasn't Los Angeles Police Protective League. It was actually it was a different police association. It was Riverside Police, I believe, who were actually opposed to single payer healthcare. They were literally the first opposition to single payer healthcare. Um, so they oppose everything that we do. And that we know that Nathan Hochman was a former Republican, quote unquote, former Republican, right? And in the same way that Jackie Lacey, who was a Republican, was told that you cannot win in LA County being a Republican. So they both conveniently switched their party just before they ran. We
Hmm.
know that Nathan Hochman's brother is actually is high up in the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And so, of course, this is what they do. And, it was the firing of Lawrence Middleton that was absolutely sort of the writing on the wall. But it was also the fact that They even said in their memo when they tried to initially dismiss these charges in November that what they said in there, the judge even responded to it and said, "This is not what I said. I did not say that this evidence was not admissible. And you're saying that this is the reason why you're dropping the case. So I need you," the judge said, "I need you to either do one of three things, to either go back and rewrite your memo to dismiss this case so that it's actually accurate to what I said. Or you can ask for me to say, I think it's a motion eliminate where the judge will say what evidence clearly is in and is out before they decide to move forward." And then the third choice was to move forward with the case. Of course, they chose to rewrite the memo. Their main reason around evidence was dropped because they knew that that was not actually a valid reason, and the judge said so. So they just wanted to drop the case just because they wanted to drop the case.
What's next for the family? These are criminal charges. Has nothing to do with what happened in civil court. Is that moving forward, or has that already moved forward and completed?
That's already completed. The family did win a settlement. They settled out of court because they didn't want to go to trial, as many of our families don't, because it just puts them through so much. And we know that also that in addition to the next steps are that we filed initially. The family brought back the family is very close to their civil attorney, Peter Carr. And when all of this was happening, Pete came back in and was trying to help the family with whatever he could. And so we appealed to the California Department of Justice and the AG and asked him to step in to take over this case because it was a clear conflict of interest because of the fact that Nathan Hochman has taken so much money from the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And as you said, he's not the prosecutor of the people. He's a prosecutor for the police, right? Nathan Hochman has shown that he will prosecute protesters with quickness, but he will not prosecute police. This is not the only case that he has tried to drop. And so there was an appeal to the attorney general. The attorney general ultimately said there's no decision from the judge at this point, so we can't step in at this point. And so now the family is going to appeal to the attorney general to essentially say that it was an abuse of discretion, and that there is a conflict of interest and that he needs to step in to take this case.
Sheila, what haven't I asked you that the people need to know? And then I'd like you any announcements that Black Lives Matter Grassroots or Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, same, I know, I have for the people.
Absolutely. So just a few things is that one, that we were already coming for Nathan Hochman, and making sure that, and by coming for him, I meant coming for his job, and that we are standing outside of his office every Wednesday at 4 p.m. And a call to action early is that people can come and join us at 4 p.m. where we will be focusing on Christopher Deandre Mitchell and the huge miscarriage of justice that this represents. So Nathan Hochman, your days in office are numbered. And if you don't believe us, ask Jackie Lacey. If you don't believe us, ask former Chief Beck, Chief Moore. We can go on and on. We have never lost a buy campaign, right? Ask Kevin De Leon. We will absolutely make sure that you lose your job, and there will be political consequences for dropping this case. Because additionally, as I said, he's prosecuting people. He has prosecuted our youth for standing in solidarity with Palestine, and he is not prosecuting these killer cops. And the thing is that it sends a dangerous message, not just to Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon or Torrance PD, who was embroiled in this messaging scandal, that the attorney general stepped in on that instance because it was so egregious and because it was such a harm to community in a quote unquote former sundown town, right? That the attorney general was already involved in Torrance PD, and that they have a forcible agreement where that they now have to have a oversight commission of the police department. And that was the work of his mama, that his mama said that she wanted the road to be easier for the next family because she knew there was going to be one. And so she wanted the next family to not have to go to city council meetings where they have met us with police in riot gear, where she had a baton put to her neck, where one of our youth was hurt and injured to the point that she is permanently in a wheelchair. that she wanted the road to be easier for the next family because they allowed Brian Kawamoto, who shot Christopher Deandre Mitchell with a beanbag gun, they allowed him to be in city council chambers with us while we are chanting for justice in his name. That is dangerous. That is negligent to allow them to be in city council chambers with his mama.
But also, or and not but, and also typical. I mean, one of the things
Yes.
when we work with families that we tell them and or help them navigate as soon as they look like they are going to have the audacity to say word one about the murder of their loved one, right? They become a subsequent target. They are followed. Cops show up at their work. I've got families in Vallejo. Cops have followed them in supermarkets, bars. I mean, the intimidation, the targeting, trying to get them I mean, it goes on and on and on. So this also, for folks listening, is par for the course, not the exception to the rule. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And so, yeah, we are making sure that Nathan Hockman's days are numbered in office and that he is going to be getting out of office. And so we are still appealing to him to do what is right and would love for him to, I mean, it's not going to happen, but we would love for him to, we will be in front of his office today, and our demands are that he reinstate these charges. And that if he doesn't, that his days are numbered, but his days are numbered regardless. He's
That makes
absolutely got to go. And so, you know, we just want to make it crystal clear that this is, he was already an enemy of the people, not the representative of the people. And he has made that crystal clear by dropping these charges.
Sheila Bates, real quick, because I do have to move on. What happened in Sacramento yesterday?
In Sacramento, the Crises Act passed through the Judiciary Committee. So we are moving to Appropriations Committee because we will be placed there, and then we will be going to the floor. And that is also a bill that Sister Sherilyn was supportive. And, you know, she was fighting for passing the Decertification Act. That passed. And I remember saying in the halls that they would be, mark my words, that these cops would be some of the first cops to be decertified, and they were. On that first list of 60 cops to be decertified, Torrance PD included 12 of them. And of those 12 were Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon.
Okay, we did a little bit of inside baseball. So a couple of amazing things have happened last few days. There's the decertification bill that we got passed, which means that some cops, not all, and there's problems with the bill, and I say it all the time, legislation is a piece of it.
Hmm.
There is a law that got passed where cops that do really, really, really egregious things can no longer make lateral moves, which is moving
Yes.
from one department to the next. They can, in fact, be decertified and never allowed to be law enforcement in the state of California again. And there was a historic hearing last week. Was that last week? That had to be last week. And that's what you're talking about, the
Yes.
cops that were on the list.
Yes.
And then there's the Crisis Act, which I say often was my baby, that passed once, which redirects funding from the state to, it's supposed to be to grassroots organizations to do alternative mo response models to community crisis. And that is what passed the judiciary. Was that Monday?
Yes. No, Tuesday.
Tuesday. Tell today's what
Yes.
it was
Yes.
yesterday. I'm
Today's
not
Wednesday. Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right. There was also an Alameda Flock hearing last night. There's so much the people see y'all, and this is where I'm going. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. I know we wake up. I woke up this morning just in a mood. I told our engineer Kirsten, she was like, hello. I was like, right? Because there's so much help. But the people are fighting back. The people are resisting. The people are doing a thing. And we are having small wins in the midst of all of this pain. Sheila Bates, thank you for being a warrior for the people. Give my love to my sister from another Mr. Melina Abdullah, and I will talk to y'all soon.
Could I make one quick plea for folks to sign our petition because we are trying to get rid of Chief McDonnell? So please go to tinyurl.com/fire McDonnell. That's FIREMCDONNELL. Tinyurl.com/fire McDonnell so we can get him out of office as well.
And I imagine all of those things are on your socials, which is BLM Grassroots, right? Across the board.
Yes, BLM Grassroots. And if you want to follow the work locally, BLM Los Angeles.
All right. All right, Sheila. Thank you. Have a
Thank you, Sister Cat.